Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all.
Resource help to them individually, and we're getting a lot of calls right now. We don't want to set too much up here in Deer Park per se until we get as much of the power restored.
Now, we know a lot of parents in Deer Park are probably...
All right, we're going to interrupt Stephanie right now because next door in Pasadena, where they also had damage, they're holding a press conference. Let's listen in.
Pasadena Police Chief Josh Bruger, Pasadena Fire Chief Lanny Armstrong, and our OEM Director Azel Carter. And at the end also we have a translation from Sergeant Raul Granados. At this time I'll bring Mayor Jeff Wagner to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Rex. We've got crews walking around our city from one end to the exit, because one end to the other, because as you know, this hurricane took a bizarre path. It took the path it wanted to take, and no one could stop it. And we know that by the damage that we see. I just got words that our shelter that we have at the Baker Ripley here in Pasadena is completely full. They're looking for a second location to help people to have a place to spend the night. Also, the Salvation Army, last night they came out to the location and fed over 300 meals. Today at the Salvation Army at 4102 Yellowstone here in Pasadena, between 2 and 3, they'll be serving hot meals for people. We're getting great support from the state of Texas. Governor Abbott has called and said anything the state can do, they're here for us. State senators, state representatives all through the region are calling for help, how they can help, and we're definitely letting them know how they can help. I've talked with the superintendent of our school district here in Pasadena. They're trying everything they can to get the schools open tomorrow. They'll make that decision here pretty soon. So right now it's still closed, but they're really looking at how they can open schools tomorrow. I think it all has to do with all the electricity being turned on. Center Point has over 300 trucks here in our city working for us in Deer Park. They're doing a super job. They were here before the storm hit, and they've been here ever since, working as hard as they can. They've restored a lot of electricity, but the tornado itself damaged some of their most important parts of their substations, which is, as they said, it's really unheard of. But tornadoes can do what they want, and tornadoes did do the damage. They are assessing it, they're fixing it. We still got neighborhoods out because of that, but they are working as hard as they can on fixing that problem to get the electricity running through the lines. The animal shelter, that's been one of the big talking points that everybody wants to know about. Our animal shelter was completely damaged. The roof was torn off. We had over 200 animals inside the shelter. Only 2 or 3 were injured, not life-threatening, thank goodness. So people want to know, what can they do to help our shelter? And I might have to read this. Usually I don't read, but I have to get this right. There's ways you can help. Number one is, if you want to donate money, go to www.pasadenatx.gov/animal shelter donations. Or the Methodist Church, Asbury Methodist Church at Genoa Red Bluff and Space Center are accepting donations if you want to bring food. We want you to bring the food there, not to our animal shelter location. The building itself is dangerous right now. Please don't go by to even look at it. It's very dangerous. We keep everybody away from it. The animals are safe. We got them in the building next to it. So if you want to donate, go to the Asbury Methodist Church. Its address is 5354 Space Center. And they've been willing to help us, and we really appreciate that. It's partnerships like that and partnerships throughout our whole community, as you can see here in Pasadena, neighbor helping neighbor. And again, we're big about that. And I was walking through the neighborhood yesterday, and as the parents and the kids from out of school was getting to their house, and their house was completely torn up. It was just, it wasn't almost there. And I looked at these people, and I said I'm sorry, because I was sorry, but what do you say when somebody walks to their house and they had no idea their house is not there any longer? we feel their pain. We're doing everything we can as a city. The state is doing everything they can. We're going to make it as I hate the word you use, easy, but we're going to make it as easy as possible for us to assist all our citizens who this tornado touched. With that, I think is Lanny Armstrong, the fire chief, up next, Rex. If you want to introduce him. And again, we'll answer questions here shortly. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Actually, it's our police chief, Josh Bruger, is going to speak next. And as you can see, this is kind of a fluid situation. We've got a lot of things going on. And so a couple of the folks that are going to speak, they're still out on sites right now. They're going to make it here before the end of the press conference. Chief Josh Bruger.
Thank you, Rex. Thank you, Mayor. What I want to touch on is law enforcement and kind of what we're dealing with right now and kind of an update. Our biggest issue right now is down power lines and poles and traffic control issues. Obviously, we have lights out, and so that's our biggest issue. We have a lot of resources tied up on intersections right now and trying to keep folks out of areas they shouldn't be in. And the biggest thing that I can ask, from the public is, help us by, staying out of these areas, particularly where the damage is. We have a lot of, people coming in and out with debris and things like that. And so just staying out of those areas. And the other is, driving friendly and making sure the areas where the lights are out that treating them as a four-way stop and just driving cautiously. That's the biggest issues we have. And I'll tell you right now, the two main areas that we're having the biggest problems is Fairmont and Mickey Gilley area, which was hit pretty hard, as well as Spencer Highway from the Beltway east to Deadman, in that entire area, because there's no lights in that area. And so if you could stay out of those areas, it would be appreciated. The other thing I want to touch on is we've become aware that there's a lot of contractors out in the area now where these areas were hit. And I just want to remind folks, if a deal sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Because you're going to have, unfortunately, folks out there, preying and targeting on some of the folks with damage. And so, if they want cash up front, that should be a clue. The other thing is the city has a permitting process, and that permitting process is really to protect the residents and their investment. And so when you hire a contractor, the contractor should be going through the city for the permitting process. The city's going to come out and inspect the contractor's work to make sure it's up to code and the specs. And so I can't stress enough, be real careful when you're choosing contractors right now because they're out there and unfortunately there are folks that are going to prey on folks. And so that's all I have from a law enforcement perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And now we'll have our Fire Chief, Lanny Armstrong. Lanny.
Thank you, Rex. Thank you, Mayor. To date, we've run about 100 calls since yesterday afternoon, about 2 o'clock. We continue to respond to power issues as well as gas leaks. And I will say this, we're getting a lot of repeat calls. Folks have a misconception that if they call the fire department, we're going to get center point there quicker. That's not the case. So, we're not going to get them there any faster. So if you've called once and we've come out and assessed that there's minimal hazard and just wait on center point, please be patient, wait on center point. As far as injuries go, it's absolutely miraculous that we had such a catastrophic event. We had one medical emergency that we're not even really sure it's related to the tornado yesterday. There's some minor injuries, obviously, but as far as injuries go, it's absolutely a miracle considering the damage that's been done across the city. Our firefighters are continuing to respond to, emergencies. If you have a gas leak, that is truly an emergency. We really don't like to respond to gas leaks that are, people have said they've been smelling gas for a couple of days. So if you smell gas, by all means, call 911. We will get there. CenterPoint's been really great about getting to these scenes quickly. As an adjunct to what Chief Bruger said, if you have insurance, one of the things we respond to all the time is when we have major house fires. If you have insurance, deal with your insurance company only. Don't deal with the contractors. If you sign a contract with a contractor, they cut you out of the deal, and they'll deal with your insurance company. So you don't want to do that. Make sure you deal with your insurance companies. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. As we said in the beginning, we're getting a lot of help from the state of Texas, and so at this time, I want to introduce from the Texas Department of Emergency Management, Michelle Ellis.
Good afternoon. As said, my name is Michelle Ellis. I'm with the Texas Division of Emergency Management with TDEM. We have had resources deployed, monitoring, and definitely on the ground with our jurisdictions since yesterday, pre the events coming through, and then definitely after the bad weather sales started dropping, tornadoes throughout southeast Texas. We're asking all individuals who may have experienced any types of damages to please go to the TDEM, that's Texas Division of Emergency Management, TDEM.Texas, TEXAS.gov, and look to report your damages. You can also report through that tool any resource needs or unmet needs, and we will in turn coordinate back with the local jurisdictions to make sure that we can facilitate any resource needs. We continue to support our local jurisdictions in going through and capturing damages. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. At this time, our OEM Director, Azell Carter.
Good afternoon. My name is Azell Carter. I'm the Emergency Management Coordinator for the City of Pasadena. Currently, we are trying to make sure that we have all the resources that are necessary for our community to rebound. I want to piggyback on what Chief Ellis said. Some of the tools that we have for people to get resources are on our social media pages. So please follow the Pasadena social media pages and the Pasadena Police social media page, and so that you can get that information so you can report your damages. We do have some community sheltering in Pasadena. Right now it's at the Baker Ripley Center on Fairmont. That is becoming to go to capacity, so we will open up another shelter shortly. When we get that information, we will post that on our social media. Salvation Army is out serving hot meals to individuals who may need it. They're at different locations throughout the city. Again, we will post all that information on our website for people to get it, and they can be able to come. We do ask that you be patient. A lot of people are going through a very traumatic time. We just came through from driving and seeing some of the damage that has occurred. So we ask that you all be patient. Our job, all of us here as leaders with the city, are doing our very best to make sure that everybody is helped, everybody has everything that they need, so they can go forth and rebuild. In addition, for volunteers, we do want volunteers. However, at the moment, we just ask that you all register through the Red Cross or register through Volunteer Pasadena. We don't want spontaneous volunteers because we want to make sure that everybody that's involved, including our volunteers, are working in a safe environment. So at the moment, we are still doing damage assessments. Once we complete the damage assessments and determine that the areas are safe, especially the areas where we have down power lines and down power poles, then we will reach out to our volunteer organizations so we can get an abundance of volunteers to help our citizens that are in need.
So I know that sounds like a lot, but quite frankly, we've just scratched the surface. So at this time, if you guys have any questions, we're gonna take questions, and if you'll just point to who wants to take the questions. We will have a translation from in Spanish from Officer Sergeant Raul Granados. I'm sorry. Raul, you want to do that now? Thank you.
You have been listening to a press conference by Pasadena city officials. The mayor there, Jeff Wagner, telling folks that the Baker Ripley shelter is about full. They are working to find another location, and we'll let folks know when that is open. By the way, the Salvation Army is serving hot meals. That's going to be at 2732 Cherry Brook. And of course, lots of work trying to get the schools back online. Electricity an issue there. Pasadena ISD closed for right now. Hopefully it will be reopened.
Que los daños son extensivos a muchos hogares, apartamentos, negocios y edificios, incluyendo uno de los edificios de la ciudad de Pasadena, que es el albergue de animales que tenemos aquí en nuestra ciudad. que recibió bastante daño. Todos esos animales fueron rescatados y ya han sido llevados a otros albergues. Como dice nuestro jefe de policía, nuestra función más importante es la seguridad de toda nuestra ciudadanía. Les decimos a todos los ciudadanos que por favor se mantengan retirados de las áreas que necesitan ayuda de la ciudad para así que ellos, lo que son las compañías de electricidad y de gas, puedan entrar y hacer sus trabajos. Hay muchas intersecciones que están cerradas ahorita y no se van a poder abrir hasta que haya energía, ¿verdad? Que haya electricidad para proveer esa electricidad a los semáforos. Estas áreas tienen oficiales y altos. Les pedimos a la gente que por favor maneje con precaución, que traten lo posible de mantenerse lejos de esas áreas y que más que nada tengan paciencia, ¿verdad? Este es un proceso que va a tomar bastante tiempo, es un proceso largo, pero queremos reiterarles a todos, ¿verdad?, que estamos aquí para ayudarles, que nuestro alcalde se compromete a hacer todo lo posible para ayudar a todos, que la oficina de emergencias de la ciudad de Pasadena y también del estado de Texas que está aquí presente, se comprometen a ayudarles a todos. Como dice la señora Michelle, si tienen daños en sus hogares, por favor registren esos daños con la oficina de emergencias del estado de Texas. Si tienen alguna fuga de gas, como dice el jefe de bomberos, por favor llamen de inmediato. Las fugas de gas son obviamente muy peligrosas y queremos asegurarnos de que todas estas fugas de gas sean que se hayan registrado para que así nuestro departamento de bomberos trabaje con la compañía Centerpoint para que puedan así cerrar esas fugas. Una vez más, esto es un proceso largo, vamos a tratar de hacer todo lo posible para ayudar a todos los de nuestra comunidad y esperamos que sea un proceso, cuando no fácil, que tan siquiera sea lo más prudente que lo podamos hacer. Les pedimos también a los ciudadanos que tienen daños en sus hogares que si están tratando con contratistas, que sepan que va a haber personas que se van a tomar ventaja, ¿verdad?, de algunos ciudadanos, que sepan que la ciudad de Pasadena tiene un proceso para sacar permisos, que este proceso se va a tratar de facilitar a todos los ciudadanos y de que estos permisos son para la ayuda del ciudadano, ¿verdad?, para que así los contratistas puedan hacer el mejor trabajo que puedan hacer. Y si acaso tienen alguna información de alguien que esté tomando ventaja de algún ciudadano, especialmente los ancianos, que por favor nos avisen y nosotros hacemos las investigaciones de acuerdo. Y si tienen alguna pregunta, aquí estamos para contestarles.
Thank you, Sergeant, and I apologize for overlooking you and butchering your name. I didn't mean to do that. And so at this time, we will take some questions. If any of you guys have any questions, and you'll direct it to whoever you'd like the question to be answered by.
Mayor, you talked about seeing some of your neighbors and residents yesterday, and you apologized to them. I'm imagining if you know this city well, how difficult it would be to stand there and talk to people you know well about losing them.
Very difficult. You know, and again, like I said, I'm sorry, but I didn't have any other words to say because, I mean, we're standing there. These kids just got out of school and didn't even realize, when they got to their neighborhood, their house wasn't even there. It was completely gone. It was just devastating. So yes, it was very hard. But that's just the message that we give everyone whose house was touched by this tornado. You know, we are sorry, and we're going to do everything we can to make the process as best as we can as a city. You know, the state stepping in. Mayor Turner just called me right before the deal. The city of Houston's here for us. So, I mean, everyone is trying to help everyone, and that's why we'll get through this, because we know that we will help everyone that we can help.
Were any of you personally affected? Your homes? And I know the department, I'm sure there are officers and employees who still have to do their jobs despite any damage to the Houston.
We've had several of our firefighters, their houses were and I think a couple of police officers with minor damage, but we have not got that report of all our city employees, but the chances are absolutely.
Mayor, do you have an estimate of how many people were affected with this situation?
That's what they were out doing right now. We're getting that number together. Once we get that, we'll give the exact number. But we just know a lot, and I hate to use that word a lot, but a lot. But we'll get you the exact number. That's what they were out doing. We've got drones up. We got people counting houses. We're doing everything we can to make sure our numbers are right. So if there's any benefits the state or even the federal government can do, we're going to be on top of it.
Did you ask for a declaration, like an emergency declaration?
Yes.
How many days to get there? I know it's a process, but
We are right now. We're in the declaration right now. How many days will it last? I'm hoping not long. I'm hoping we can try to maybe bounce back by next week. But then again, we don't know. You know, we're still out getting all the lines out of the streets. I mean, there's so much that we don't know, but there's so much that we're doing. So it's hard to keep up with information.
Any idea of how soon the second shelter may be operational?
I just our chamber, the president of our chamber is back there now. I've been on phone with them. They're working on it as we're speaking, and I'm sure before the afternoon's over, there will be a second shelter. Absolutely.
How many animals have been injured in this shelter?
We know two. Again, out of and that one bay where the roof's completely gone, there were 70 animals in there, and only 2 was injured. And again, they were injured, but again, they looked happy, but they sure they were injured. We was able to manage that. Let me start it for you. I've been up all night, and I apologize. We was able to transport all of them, all 200, out of that into our adoption center next door. But what's so good is talking about partnerships and people helping. So many volunteers have come help us to foster the dogs. Other agencies come, you know, and took some of the dogs from us. So it's one big community working together. It's just not Pasadena, it's the whole community.
I don't know how long all of y'all have been in Pasadena, but do you recall the tornado?
You know, I've only been in Pasadena 30 years, and believe it or not, I can remember about maybe 10 years ago, a small tornado touched down in my neighborhood and knocked down my back fence, but no damage at all like this. So I can honestly, I think I'm gonna step out and say we never had a tornado like this in Pasadena with this much damage. So, I mean, it's something that we don't want. We have it, and we'll deal with it.
Question for emergency management. With regard to communication, both before and after the storm, how critical is interagency communication, both preparation and recovery?
Communication is paramount. That is the only way that we're going to be able to provide services and resources to the people who need them. We have done the best we can under the circumstances with our PIO to get our information via all platforms, mostly social media platforms, and to our employees who are also residents of the city of Pasadena as well. We will continue to send updates as we have them to the residents to make sure that they get information that they need. And then we also have our phone lines open so that they can call us and ask us questions. And when they ask us questions, we will do our best to give them the answer that is appropriate. However, if we do not know the answer, we will not make up anything. We will be truthful in that matter because we don't want to lead people down the wrong path. But we all understand that communication is the only way that we're going to get through this situation as best as possible.
How reliant are you on outside agencies and the state to manage this?
Well, the state has been gracious to come help us out, particularly in our damage assessment. We do have large areas within the city that have a significant amount of damage. So we're going to go out later on to do more in-depth damage analysis to try to count the number of homes, count the number of businesses that may have been impacted, so we can get a better idea of how much of the city has been impacted from the tornado.
Maybe too early for a dollar estimate?
It's definitely too early for a dollar estimate. I can tell you it's more than $1. Okay, but right now, honestly, our focus is not on the dollar estimate. Our focus is on what can't be quantified by a dollar, and that's the individuals who unfortunately lost everything, and they are trying to rebuild. And so we're going to work with our partners to get them what they need. Eventually, there will be a dollar estimate, but right now, compassion is on the forefront, and that's what we're trying to deal with first.
About how long do you think the assessment?
It just depends on the different intricacies as you go through the assessment. Sometimes you can see and say, okay, this is a house, we have damage here, or you may see and there's something else beyond it. As Chief Armstrong alluded to it earlier, we have been getting a lot of gas calls, a lot of gas leaks. We've also had down power lines, so those different things can affect the damage as we assess them throughout today and throughout this week.
If there's no more questions, we'll close this press conference. I did want to say this. These are a lot of the city leaders who are up, excuse me, who are up here today. They've been up all night. But I want to give a shout out to our public works, the people that are working around the clock right now. They're the ones that are the boots on the ground. They're out doing the hard physical labor in this cold and rainy time stuff. So I want to do that. Our sanitation department is assessing all the things that are going on in here and determining whether we can handle that. We're going to need some help with that. I just wanted to give a shout out to those guys and thank you guys so much for being here.
Just one more question for the mayor.
Yes.
Did you receive the latest reports on center points? How many people are without power?
We do receive that, and have we get that recently?
Right now, last we checked,
It's on here?
16,
I'll
Laura?
give it to you real quick. Let me find it on here. Right now, we have 16,000 homes without power. Yeah. So, thank you, Laura, for, yeah, it's right here. So with that, thank y'all so much, and again, anything we can do, we'll put it out as fast as we can. I like how, as Elle says, we deal with facts only. We won't just make stuff up. So when you hear something from one of us, you can bet on it. Thank you so much.